Neville Goddard, Power of Awareness, Chapter 6, Attention. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1:8. Attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. It is steadied and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as permits you to see one thing only, for you steady the attention and increase its power by confining it. The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated. For an idea is endowed with power only in proportion to the degree of attention fixed on it. Concentrated observation is the attentive attitude directed towards some specific end. The attentive attitude involves selection, for when you pay attention, it signifies that you have decided to focus your attention on one object or state rather than on another. Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. What does it mean 70 times 7? How many times must you do this? How many times must you go to sleep with the feeling in mind? I am all that is God right here. This is your self-concept. This is another self-concept. This is your future self-concept. All these self-concepts come from I am all that is. Come from awareness of being. This is you now, and this is where you want to be tomorrow. This is you not married, single, not in love. And this is you in love, married, having the joy, experiencing the joy of your life, which you've always wished for. But while you're here, what does it take to then create an environment and a mood that creates this? What do you have to do? 70 times 7. That means just keep repeating this. And I know you hear it often enough, persist, persist, persist. Repeat, 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 but have you successfully made the impression onto your subconscious? If you don't see it objectified, if you don't feel different in the morning, if you don't feel different when you look at your YouTube feed, if you don't feel like the detachment's happened, you haven't made the impression. You haven't simply made the impression. So if you've slightly thought about it when you fell asleep and you kind of sort of see yourself in a relationship, but you didn't feel it, you didn't put the feeling with the thought, the true feeling of it. It did not impress your subconscious. Therefore, you're not seeing it in your objective reality. When you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until, again, you must, and then until that feeling fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. The power of attention is the measure of your inner force. Concentrated observation of one thing shuts out other things and causes them to disappear. The great secret of success is to focus the attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. That distraction as you're falling asleep of you're focused on this one thing and all of a sudden you're climbing a ladder. You're focused on this one thing and all of a sudden you're flying. You're focused on this one thing and you're thinking about something from last week. The mind can drift. It can start to go in other places. You have to draw it back and get focused on your desire. You have to bring it back and focus again. Drifts again, focus again. There's other techniques out there where they say hold. Nowadays you can hold your cell phone if you'd like. You know, if you're sleeping on your side, just hold your cell phone vertical. This would be vertical if you're on your side here. This would be holding it up, and then once it drops, that alerts you. And there's an old technique where you'd use a tennis ball or baseball. You'd hold it up and you'd go into sats and you'd imagine yourself in love, happily married. And then if you're falling asleep, the ball will fall out of your hands. And once it falls, baseball is heavier, it'll fall on the mattress right next to you. So it'll alert you that you fell asleep, that you're really going to sleep, but you want to stop that and bring it back. Grab the ball or your cell phone, whatever you're using. The ball is kind of is a neat thing because it doesn't have media attached to it, right? So you got the ball again, and then you bring back that awareness. I'm happily walking down the aisle, or I'm actually coming home from my honeymoon, and you don't even have a partner in mind. You just know you're coming home from your honeymoon. This is okay, but you hold that ball. Imagine yourself coming in from the honeymoon. The ball drops because you were falling asleep. Pick it up again and again and again, and sooner or later you're gonna just go to sleep. It's going to happen, but you're getting better at strengthening and lengthening that process, which is the ultimate process. This is the ultimate process of getting all of your desires to come true. The great secret of success, which is the greatest sentence in the world, is to focus the attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. Remember that drifting off to some other place when you're falling asleep is a distraction. All progress depends upon an increase of attention. All progress depends upon an increase of attention. The ideas which impel you to action are those which dominate the consciousness, those which possess the attention. This one thing I do, forgetting those things that are behind, I press toward the mark. This means this one thing you can do, forgetting those things that are behind. You can press toward the mark of filling your mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To the unenlightened man, this will seem to be all fantasy. Yet all progress comes from those who do not take the accepted view, nor accept the world as it is. Very profound. As was stated heretofore, if you can imagine what you please, and if the forms of your thought are as vivid as the forms of nature, you are by virtue of the power of your imagination master of your fate. Your imagination is you yourself, and the world as your imagination sees it is the real world. Your imagination is you yourself, and the world as your imagination sees it is the real world. Sorry about that. I had to clean up that sentence. Your imagination is you yourself, and the world as your imagination sees it is the real world. When you set out to master the movements of attention, which must be done if you would successfully alter the course of observed events, it is then you realize how little control you exercise over your imagination, and how much it is dominated by sensory impressions and by a drifting on the tides of idle moods. To aid in mastering the control of your attention, practice this exercise. Night after night, just before you drift off to sleep, strive to hold your attention on the activities of the day in reverse order. This is a very fun exercise. Focus your attention on the last thing you did, that is, getting into bed, and then move it backwards in time over the events until you reach the first event of the day, getting out of bed. This is no easy exercise, but just as specific exercises greatly help in developing specific muscles, this will greatly help in developing the muscle of your attention. Your attention must be developed, your attention must be developed, controlled, and concentrated in order to change your concept of yourself successfully and thereby change your future. You must develop your attention. You must control and concentrate in order to change your concept of yourself, in order for this to be a success. Imagination is able to do anything, but only according to the internal direction of your attention. If you persist night after night, sooner or later you will awaken in yourself a center of power and become conscious of your greater self, the real you. Attention is developed by a repeated exercise or habit. Through habit, an action becomes easier. So in course of time, gives rise to a facility or faculty, which can then be put to higher uses. When you attain control of the internal direction of your attention, you will no longer stand in shallow water, but will launch out into the deep of life. You will walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled as on a foundation more solid even than earth. Goodness. The true exercise that will get your mind into the habit. Focus your attention on the last thing you did. I'm going to repeat it because it's so profound and it's fun. The first time I did it, I didn't make it but a little distance. The second day I tried it, I went all the way from the end to the beginning. It was fascinating. It's very much depends on how many things you embellish that you focus on that you did, because they bring on each other. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating exercise. Focus your attention on the last thing you did, and that is getting into bed. And then move it backward in time over the events until you reach the first event of the day. Getting out of bed. This is no easy exercise, but just that specific exercises greatly help in developing specific muscles. This will greatly help in developing the muscle of your attention. Man, all we're doing is developing our attention. We're getting that under our control. I love this part too. You will attain control of the eternal direction of your attention. You will no longer stand in shallow water, but will launch out into the deep of life. You will walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled as on a foundation more solid even than earth. It is fascinating when you see something come to fruition and you're like, I created that. They're saying what I said in here. I said it here. Now they're saying it to me out there. What? That's really happening? It's going to knock your socks off. Like I said before, it's going to be the most amazing feeling. Get the parking space. Get the friend congratulating you on your success, but more so, congratulate your friends. Do what Job did. Raise the tide for all your friends. Wish them well. See them better. See them as never having more, never feeling better. Imagine them telling you that, and then hear them tell you that. Start off where you can make the little impacts and watch it grow. It's profound when you see these little successes. Those little successes all add up. Power of Awareness, Chapter 6, Attention. What a great chapter. And here's the opening quote. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1:8. Another way of saying that is you can't ride two horses, right? You can't serve two masters, as Neville says. All right, we'll see you in the next chapter.